I'm speaking with Andrew Gross, who is the state herpetologist for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Thanks for talking to us today, Andrew. And I was really you sent out an email, or I got a press release about these tegu lizards.
That's right.
And apparently it's now becoming kind of a lizard of concern, and we've got some restrictions about it. So tell me, where are they from and how are they getting up here and causing a problem in South Carolina, please?
So black and white tegu lizards, Argentine black and white tegu lizards is what we're talking about. They are native to South America, Central America area. They're very popular pets in the pet trade. And we've seen them, through the pet trade become established in Florida and Georgia. And up until last year, we knew people kept them as pets, but we hadn't had any confirmed sightings in the wild. And since then, fall of last year, we've gotten 13 confirmed records of black and white tegus in South Carolina, all the way up in the mountains in Greenville County, down to Berkeley County, over near Florence, with the most sightings coming from the Columbia area. So the reason it's a concern, and the reason we have the new regulations, is that, it's a non-native species. So anytime you take a species that's not native to a particular ecosystem you're talking about, especially something as large as a tegu, they can get up to 3, maybe even 4 feet in the best cases. And when you throw something like that into, an environment where it doesn't have many predators, and some of the native species, aren't used to it as a predator, it can have real negative impacts on those native species. So you have the direct mortality where they might be eating either the species of concern or also, competing with those native species for food and shelter and some of the requirements that they might need, but also those indirect impacts of if they're harboring any kind of pathogens or parasites, and how that might impact some of our species that have never been exposed to some of these different things. So there's a lot that we don't know about exotic species, but when they're kind of just thrust into our native ecosystems, they can certainly have an impact. And so we made these new regulations that started or that were passed at the end of May. And essentially what it is anyone who owns a black and white tegu or a hybrid of the Argentine black and white tegu is required to register it with the department. And what that means is you're required to go have it pit tagged by a veterinarian, and then you fill out an application to register it with us. And through that application is just your information, where the animal will be held. We actually require a picture of the animal and then the pit tag or the microchip number on that application. You get a permit, you can keep that animal for the life of that animal, but the permit is good for 3 years, at which point, if you're still in possession of that animal and it's still alive, then you're required to renew that permit. But along with those regulations, no reproduction, no importing of any new black and white tegus. Basically, what we have in the state, you're allowed to have as long as they're registered, and you're allowed to register those animals from the end of May until September 25th. After September 25th, hopefully all the animals in the state that people have in captivity are registered.
So I guess there's a fine if you wait until after that.
So the maximum fine, if you're in violation of the law not having your animal registered, is up to $2,500 and a year in prison if you're in violation, but that's per animal as well.
Per animal, okay. And so we have breeders who have these reproduced, and from what I understand, they're kind of small when they're born, and so people say, oh, that's a nice little interesting looking, cool thing, and they order them and they can be shipped through the mail, but then they get so big, so sometimes there's a tendency to say, I just can't deal with this 3 or 4 foot animal anymore, and they get out, or you have them in a cage that no longer is strong enough to contain them. Originally, I guess we thought that they weren't going to be able to survive the winter, but y'all are finding that in some places they're surprising us.
Well, yeah, so this is maybe the misconception for a lot of these exotic species is that, well, it's not their native environment, so they can't survive. And some of the things we're finding out, black and white tegus aren't the first exotic to cause a problem, especially in the southeastern U.S. We're learning a lot more about some of these species and how they're able to kind of acclimate to some of the conditions, or just how resilient they are to some of the different conditions. And some of these species that haven't had to deal with some of the colder climates, we just assume that they can't deal with them. But we're finding out that, some of these animals can survive the colder winters. Now, generally, if you have freezing temperatures and we get animals that are, a lot of these exotics are coming from places that are warmer climates. And so if you do live somewhere that has consistently freezing temperatures, a lot of these animals, can't survive. But when you're talking about somewhere like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, that does occasionally have these somewhat tropical, climate, certainly in the summer, and then occasionally we have these mild winters. If some of these species are able to find the right habitats, they certainly can survive. And that's, going back to what you were saying, in some of the other states, black and white tegus are established in Florida. I think they have 5 populations there and 2 populations in South Georgia. In South Georgia, climate ecosystem is very similar to the southern part of South Carolina as well. And so knowing that just across, the Savannah River, we have tegu populations that are, for all intents and purposes, surviving and doing well. We didn't want to take the risk in finding these animals throughout our state and having any of those become established here in South Carolina as well.
Okay, because our ground nesting birds, our own small reptiles and lizards and skinks and amphibians, they're at risk. And the other thing is, if they're not protected, and so if you're in an area out on your own farm property or someplace where it is legal to use a firearm, these are not protected and you can shoot it. And if that happens, you want it brought to you because it's important for you to do a necropsy. What do you call it on an animal?
Yes, ma'am. So, one of the big things we wanted to know was, when we got our first record of one, well, how widespread are they? How many are in? Are there more in one particular area? Do we have breeding populations? But really knowing how they're dispersed across the state, and to kind of dive further into that is, how are they surviving? And when we know that they're across the state, if we're able to get animals in hand and do these necropsies, we're able to learn so much more about them and how they're impacting our wildlife. So how big are they? Are they males or females? Looking internally at some of the, fat reserves and other things, their stomachs, what are they eating? How well are they doing? Are they mature? Are they reproducing? And that really helps us to make better decisions, as managers. So having more information is always good, and having that helps us make those more informed decisions.
If people wanted to get in touch with you with questions, is there an email that they can use to reach you?
I do have email. You can either go to our South Carolina DNR Reptile and Amphibian page. At the bottom of that, there's an email and phone number that comes to an inbox where we get questions and a lot of different things. You can also email me directly. It's my last name, so grossea@dnr.sc.gov. That's my personal email. And if you have, I tell people all the time, if you have questions, you take a picture of something, even if it's a native lizard. I answer questions to ID native species all the time, just as well as exotic species. But I like seeing all of it. So any other, it doesn't have to be tegus. It doesn't even have to be native species. Anything that you see, If I don't know the answer, I'll try to figure it out for you.
Andrew, thank you for what you're doing, and I hope that the citizens of South Carolina respond positively so that we don't end up with another animal that's a threat to our native species, including, I believe, even the gopher turtle, which is an animal of concern. And so thank y'all for the wonderful work you do at SCDNR, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today about it.
Absolutely. Thank you.